Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are Charter Moms Chats, and we go live in the afternoon to share information that families need to help their kids get a great education. And today we have, we were lucky to feature on the blog a guest post, and the author herself is joining us for Charter Moms Chat. So her name is Taylor Goldston, and she's a teacher at SST Alamo, so School of Science and Technology Alamo, which is a charter school here in San Antonio, but she's also a School of Science and Technology alumna. So she graduated from SST San Antonio and then it made such an impact on her that she came back as a teacher. So that's what the blog post is about. And this is where I plug the blog. There's a link in the description of the video that'll take you directly to Taylor's post. But we're lucky that today she's gonna discuss it with us and share her stories herself. So thank you so much, Taylor.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I just want to jump right in. In the post, you talk about how as a child, sometimes people, I talk to teachers and they're like, oh, I knew I wanted to be a teacher from when I was playing with my dolls, and but that wasn't the case for you. So what kind of goals were you thinking about when you were a kid?
When I was a kid, I knew I wanted to help people, but not in the sense of being a teacher. Even when I had teachers telling me "Oh, you're gonna be a teacher one day," I'd be like, "No, you're crazy! I couldn't do that." But when I was younger, I really wanted to be either a vet or a detective. Olivia Benson from Law and Order SVU was my role model. So that's what I really envisioned for myself. But that's clearly not the case.
Yeah. Yeah. But so in the your post that you wrote, you talk about how when you went to college, there was a particular professor that had a big impression on you, and that, so kind of building on your desire to help people, that shaped your interest in education. So how did that work?
Professor Wallace at the university I went to in Massachusetts, he was so inspirational. He actually exhibited a lot of the traits and teachers that I had growing up at SST. And I guess that's what kind of drew me into his class even more. I was really timid and not really wanting to take his class. I took it as an elective to fulfill that course requirement. It was about urban education and how we can change the system and things like that. And just the way that he spoke about urban education and even being an educator himself, the passion that he gave, it really drew me in. And so that really changed my perspective when it came to our education system.
Yeah. It's funny. I didn't think that I would do anything education related either. So what you're talking about, really, I can really relate to that. Although when I think back, I did take a constitutional law class that did have to do with education and desegregation. And it's funny how those things kind of stick with you. Those professors who have an influence on you that lasts. And that's what college is for, right? Is to expand your horizons. And yeah. So okay. So in the post, you talk about how, okay, so you went to college and you still didn't think you were going to be a teacher, but this professor had a big impact on you and got you thinking about urban education. And then you decided to join AmeriCorps. So what impact did that have on you?
That actually was, I think, what officially pulled me into education and being a teacher. Even though I was interested in being in the education field, I still never wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to do stuff in the education realm with the government, doing education reform. And so when I spoke to my advisor at college, she said, you can't really get into the reform until you actually get into being an educator and seeing what you need to change. And so, fresh out of college, didn't really have any experience. And so I just decided to do AmeriCorps. And being in that classroom for that first year, it's hard. First year teaching is very hard. It's very challenging, and you learn a lot. And so I think that's what, I got from it. I learned that I do care for kids, and I do want to make a change. And that change can definitely happen within the classroom, not just with the government.
Right. Yeah. Well, and then there's in the post you talk about there's a certain training that AmeriCorps gives to the members, and then there's the reality, right? You get in the classroom, you go, whoa. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and then you, like, you have students who kind of push back on you, so, yeah, I so
Yeah.
can you tell us more about, like yeah, like, how that felt, like, to go from, like, the training, and they're like, "Oh, yes, you're ready," and then you go,
There.
"Oh my gosh, I'm not ready," and then and then what the students say.
God bless. They tried, so our admin, whoever is over us, the umbrella of AmeriCorps in that specific program, they tried their best to get us prepared for the classroom, but there is no training that can prepare you for going into a classroom. So it was a huge drawback that first week, especially the first week. It was just like, what did I just get myself into? Like, I don't think I can do this. This is why I told my teachers I couldn't be a teacher. But I just kept pushing through. The kids, I think it was mainly me getting used to them and them getting used to me. And so, as time goes on, we got an understanding of each other and how, like, my classroom works for them versus like what works for them in return. And so as time went on, it did get a lot better. So it was definitely a lot of training on both ends. But we made it. We made it through the year.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things like learning by doing. Well, even like these videos, like I never this is kind of a pandemic thing that I started. It was like, okay, how do I communicate to people when I'm stuck at home? And the first few videos, like, don't go back and watch them. They're no good. Like, but it's like if you stick with it, you learn you can learn how it works, right? Like I'm
Mhm.
hopefully learned how to ask better questions, be a better listener, and help guests be more at ease and things like that. So but yeah, but that's tiny compared to yeah, I don't know how I would do as a teacher, and I'm sure that at first I would be feel really out of place. So,
Mhm.
I know from reading your post, like the first week you're saying was really hard, but I mean over time you built relationships with the students, and they kind of learned what to expect, and you kind of learned what to expect. And
Mhm.
then there was a comment that one of your students made towards the end of that year that really hit home. What was that about?
So it was during the last 2 weeks of school, and it was the week that they found out I wasn't returning next year. I made the choice to come back home to Texas to be with my mom. And so after class, this particular student stayed, and so I wasn't thinking much of it. I was thinking, okay, maybe he's just waiting for everyone else to leave, and he's going to be last, or he just wants to talk to me about his grade or something like that. And so then he pulled me aside, within the classroom away from everyone. And he he actually told me, Miss Goldston, I just want to let you know, even though every other teacher this year gave up on me, you never did. And I just really appreciate it. And thank you. And so that really stuck with me. And even then, I was still contemplating if I still wanted to be a teacher because, I was moving states. Maybe this could be a fresh start. Maybe this isn't what I want still. But ever since that comment from that student, it was just like confirmation for me. Okay, I can make a change in other people's lives, and it can be in this classroom.
Right, right. Yeah, and early on you were thinking that education is really important. You want to make change, you want to make things better. Like you had an appreciation of what the challenges were, but you didn't necessarily see yourself doing that in the classroom. Like you saw
Mhm.
yourself doing that in a policy type setting. But then once you actually experienced being a teacher and you got that kind of feedback from a student, that it's like, oh wow, like you really can make a big difference by
Mhm.
being a teacher in the classroom.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, okay, so I want to ask about okay, so you moved back to San Antonio, and that's where you went to high school, right? At SST San Antonio, and
Mhm.
I know because like Abel De Leon, he's also been a guest blogger and a guest on the show, like he was one of your teachers,
Yep,
right? When you
he
were at
was.
yeah. Yeah. So I guess like what were like sort of while you were sort of figuring things out and be like, okay, I'm back in San Antonio. I think I want to teach. Like what were the things about like being a student at SST and that also made you want to come back and teach at SST?
So SST, I actually went there 6th through 12th grade. I was part of the starting class at the SST San Antonio, way back when. But it always felt like home. Um, I never wanted to miss school. I hated missing school. Um, and the teachers, whenever we walked into the classroom, they were so welcoming. They were so understanding. They actually showed that they cared about us and what we learned. um, we kind of Sorry, I couldn't speak for everyone, but speaking for myself, I guess I didn't realize how much they cared about us then until it really hit when I was a first year teacher. And I was actually messaging some of my former teachers asking for advice and being like, how in the world did you do this? Like, I can't do this. This is crazy. And so they gave me really good advice. And every time I stepped foot into that classroom, I tried to channel them. Like, what did I need when I was a student from my teacher? And so that's what I try to give them, like my students. That's what I try to give them. And so I think that really helped having that background with SST Alamo from from the admin, from the staff, from the support, the community, just that home feeling of like you are cared about. We want good for you. We want you to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so important. Like, I think people, especially in, you're talking about like, you teach middle school now, right? And your time at SST San Antonio was middle school, high school. And I feel like sometimes adults don't give kids enough credit for being able to read the room and like understand the, internally, like what the adults in the situation are thinking. But they pick up on stuff. Like they
Yes,
know, they know how they're being treated. They know what the attitude is of the person interacting with them. And so yeah, that's why like, and like how wonderful that like, this knowledge of like, you were asking your teachers like, okay, how do I commit to this? And like, how do how do you show up for your students the way they showed up for you, of like being somebody who really cares and somebody who doesn't give up on the students. And they were able to like, like you had seen their example, but you needed to know like,
yeah, exactly. How did you not give up this long?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay, so you're at SST Alamo now. So, what are some things that like you've learned along the way, like whether it was from being when you were a student at SST San Antonio, or like from, like a student at Brandeis, like learning about urban education, and then your AmeriCorps experience, and then right, so now you're at SST Alamo. Like so, like so, what are those like those values like that you've brought with you from all these years?
Definitely the caring aspect. You definitely have to be empathetic. If you notice that your student just looks like they're not really having that good of a day, you have to try to understand things from their perspective and try to meet them where they're at. You can't give me 100% today. Can you at least give me like 50%? Like maybe do this one problem instead of this whole page. Like give me something. Like what can you give me today? So the caring, the empathy, having them I start them off by knowing like I have these expectations of them and I know they can do it. So giving them our circle traits, our citizenship, integrity, responsibility, caring, and leadership, having them exhibit that through my own actions with them definitely helps them.
Yeah, I didn't mention in the post, but I didn't mention on the audio and the video yet. But you teach math, so and middle school is a really critical time for math because right, and SST is a STEM school, so math is the foundation for so many of the classes they take in high school. So I'm sure it feels like the stakes are higher.
A little bit, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess so. I guess like full disclosure, like my own daughter is a student at SST Alamo, although she's in sixth grade. She's home like relaxing right now. But so yeah, I guess she might be in your class next year. Who knows? I guess.
Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah. but I know speaking as it took me a while to kind of understand like what is it that SST does so well, but it seems like it's a lot of little things. It's like being mindful of these values, and it all adds up to a situation where like students feel appreciated and they feel respected, and then they're motivated to give their best. So at least that's my perspective as a parent. So I guess I don't know, like I hope that there are parents watching this who are thinking like, what is SST? This is interesting. So, I guess like sort of what I want to ask you, what's your advice for parents who are maybe curious about SST or investigating it, and then also I'll like put up the links and stuff so that they can apply. So
my advice for parents is because my mom was that parent too. When SST first came, it was very brand new, and she was very curious about it. My advice is definitely show up to the information sessions that we provide. get a feel for the school, definitely talk to some of the teachers that are passing by. We're all open, we're all friendly, we're all willing to communicate and help out wherever we can, but just get that information and then definitely try it out.
Yeah, yeah. No, for me it was, I guess when I was researching it, for the pandemic, a lot of things were closed down, but like I think what the difference maker was especially so like my son is in ninth grade, and it was a big decision for him, like where to go to high school.
Mhm.
And we were able to have Zoom meetings with a couple of different teachers, and those teachers have turned out to be people he's really bonded with. And
Mhm.
I mean, he chose SST, so he's at the school where you went.
Mhm.
And like for him, like the reason he went was that he got to know these teachers just a little bit over Zoom, and was like, okay, I think this is what I want. And then now that he's on campus, like he hangs out in their classroom, and he's
Yep.
he's found his home, and he gets really mad if he has to miss school for something. So I was
Yep.
like, okay, I know exactly what Ms. Goldston's talking about. Like they don't want to miss class. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, this is where like I've got my little banners here. So any families that are watching, so sstschools.org is that's the main district website, and so that's got information about like the Houston and the Corpus Christi and all the San Antonio campuses, and that you can drill down and find like particular campuses. And I should mention, so on the SHR Moms blog, we have a whole enrollment guide blog post that's got information. But sstschools.org is a great place to learn more about the schools. And then if you're ready to just do the application, go to apply.sstTX.org. And it's real simple. It's just like one page, and that gets the application in. And they're doing open enrollment now, I think through early February. And then there'll be a lottery and this and that. So, but open enrollment is the best time to get your application in, because you get the best chance of getting an offer. So yeah, and there's the new main campus building going right. So
Mhm.
if anybody drives by on Rosewalk Parkway, that's what that new school building is. It's that looks pretty exciting.
Yep. Super exciting. Better than where I was at, but yes. Bigger
The old
windows. It's
grocery store,
wonderful. Yeah.
yeah.
We're excited for them. It's super long overdue.
Yeah, yeah. That's really exciting. Okay. Well, Taylor, do you have any closing thoughts you want to offer about like I mean, it's just like when I heard that there was like a math teacher who was actually an alumna, I was like, okay, I've got to hear this story. Like this is amazing. So
Um, just SST is super amazing. I don't know where I would be without SST. I really do think I am who I am, and I am where I'm at because of SST.
yeah, yeah. Well, on that note, thank you for the guest post. Thank you for joining me online for the interview, and I look forward to seeing you on campus sometime.
Thank you for having me.
All right, take care, Taylor.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.